It's very rare that you hear some sense on a cable news show, but I want to play you this clip from Jeffrey Sachs.
But I think we have to step back and not put this in partisan terms. This is a U.S. mistake that started 7 years ago. And I remember the day on your show when President Obama said, Assad must go. And I looked at you and Joe and I said, how's he going to do that? Where's the policy for that?
Right.
And we know they sent in the CIA to overthrow Assad. The CIA and Saudi Arabia together in covert operations tried to overthrow Assad. It was a disaster. Eventually it brought in both ISIS as a splinter group to the jihadists that went in. It also brought in Russia. So we have been digging deeper and deeper and deeper. What we should do now is get out and not continue to throw missiles, not have a confrontation with Russia. 7 years has been a disaster under Obama, continuing under Trump. This is what I would call the permanent state. This is the CIA, this is Pentagon, wanting to keep Iran and Russia out of Syria, but no way to do that. And so we have made a proxy war in Syria. It's killed 500,000 people, displaced 10 million, and I'll say predictably so, because I predicted it 7 years ago that there was no way to do this and that it would make a complete chaos. So what I would plead to President Trump is get out. Like his instinct told him, by the way. That was his instinct. Right. But then all the establishment, the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Pentagon, everybody said, no, that's irresponsible. But his instinct is right. Get out.
Get out, get out, get out. Jesus, I'm surprised MSNBC didn't cut him off. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's really unbelievable why this isn't seen more in mainstream media. Because I can't think of any reason. If we put on some people more like Jeffrey Sachs or Jeremy Scahill or Kyle Kalinske or myself, nobody could give a reason why we were even in Syria. And by the way, just like what happened in Iraq, where we invaded Iraq and ISIS was created, does anyone not believe the longer the United States stays in Syria? I mean, there's estimates that 600,000 people have been killed during the Syrian civil war. 600,000 people. You don't think that there's a ISIS-like group that hates America that's going to come out of Syria through the rubble? Whether we stay or whether we go? Same thing could be said for Yemen. You don't think that there's people right now who have lost their kids or their family in Yemen because of bombs manufactured in the U.S. that are being dropped by Saudi Arabia, and they're being assisted by the United States to drop those bombs? You cannot, I said this at the Young Turks, you cannot defeat an idea, but you can change your own behavior. But we're not going to do that because, again, if you watch Oliver Stone's Untold History of the United States, I'm not getting any money to plug it. I just think it's an amazing documentary series that taught me a lot. You will find out that we're a permanent war economy. We don't go to war because of urgent threat against the United States. We never have. The closest war we went to was in Afghanistan, retribution for 9/11, and frankly, should have been out long time ago. Osama bin Laden has been dead now for 8 years. Al-Qaeda is not in Afghanistan exclusively. And by the way, the United States, some of those Syrian rebels are Al-Qaeda that the United States is working with. Syrian Observatory says war has killed more than 500,000. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, a British-based war monitor, said on Monday about 511,000 people have been killed in the Syrian war since it began 7 years ago. The observatory, which tracks death tolls using a network of contacts inside Syria, said it had identified more than 350,000 of those killed, and the remainder were cases where it knew deaths had occurred but did not know the victims' names. And by the way, in all this hysteria that we hear about Russia nonstop, the truth is, maybe the neocons don't want to get out of Syria because Syria is Russia's greatest ally. And there's this irrational fear of Russia, like we had in the 1950s, 60s, 70s, and the Cold War. That if we give Russia an inch, they're going to take the whole farm. Oh my God, I can't take any more of this. 2,000 troops are in Syria. For what reason? Thousands more in Afghanistan. For what reason? I mean, you're never going to get Trump to admit that tax cuts for the rich are just because he's a rich guy who cares about the rich. You're not going to get him. You're not going to convince them, a president like Trump, to push economic policy for us. That's not going to happen. He needs to be taken out of office, I think, by beating him in an election. Because I think if you try to impeach him, Mike Pence is a lot worse than Donald Trump. Any intelligent people that aren't deranged in the head with Trump derangement syndrome? No. Mike Pence would be much, much worse for this country than Donald Trump. You're not going to hear things like this from Mike Pence pulling troops out of Syria. So I say, get the fuck out of Syria as fast as you can, and I will be the first one to applaud President Trump if he does so. I still want to beat him in 2020. I'm not a fan, but if he does that, he would be the first president to be getting us out of a war in a long time. I mean, you could say Obama got us out of Iraq, yes, but he left troops there. And by the way, this fear-mongering about Iran also, Iran was actually following the nuclear deal. Iran was actually following the terms of the nuclear deal. Every expert said so. This lunacy from Trump that they're breaking the terms of the nuclear deal. No, they weren't. There was no objective expert that wasn't a Trump official. Nuclear experts, Iranian experts, all said Iran has followed the terms of the nuclear deal. So, Iran's economy has been crushed by American sanctions. Crushed. They're not led by Mohammed Ahmadinejad, who, strangely enough, was tweeting that he wanted to be a guest on Chapo Trap House, which I thought was funny. So I say to Trump, if you get us out of Syria, by the way, if Trump gets us out of Syria, I mean, that's going to give him a lot of points for 2020, because there's a lot of progressives that want us out of these wars. And if they run another neoliberal hack like Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump gets us out of Syria,